Welcome to Fayette Footprints, a podcast on the events, people, and places that form the fabric of Fayette County, Georgia. My name is Kenny Blum. I am a longtime resident of Fayette, a bit of a history nerd, and an amateur podcaster. Thank you for joining me in my endeavor to record and share the stories that form Fayette culture. Did you know there are 11 Fayette counties in the United States? All of them are named after the Marquis de Lafayette, a French military leader who was very important in helping America win its War of Independence. But this podcast is only about one of those Fayette counties. We are talking about Fayette County, Georgia. But if that's not your county, don't hang up just yet. Please tag along with us as we go into some of our very interesting stories. And maybe this podcast will encourage you to start one of your own to help preserve and share some of the stories around your community. If you look at the crest of Fayette County, Georgia, you'll quickly see that its creation was 1821, but the history of Fayette goes back long before then. In fact, we can go back about 8,000 to 10,000 years when indigenous tribes of only 12 to 15 people were actually roaming the southeast. These nomadic tribes began settling into larger groups as they became more agrarian. In fact, these Native Americans were walking around through what we call the Kenwood and Aberdeen areas around the time that Jesus was selecting his disciples. They began to plant more and become more agrarian. They were soon planting crops in the summer along old river and dried-up creek beds. This was called the Woodlands era of the United States history. Jumping up to 1540, with the first European explorations in the southeast by Hernando de Soto, he noted these Native American people with their encampments beside their crops. Planting near those river and creek beds, de Soto named them the Creek Indians. When Georgia was founded in 1733, there were only 8 parishes. 4 were later developed within a few decades. But just after the American Revolution, those parishes were forming the first counties, mainly along the Atlantic seaboard and up to modern-day Augusta along the Savannah River. In 1800, a major person in Fayette County history was born. It was Chief William McIntosh, the son of his namesake, a Scotsman, and Sonoya Hinoha, a Native American of the Wind Clan of the Creek Indians. McIntosh would become the principal chief of the Coweta town, which was later called Columbus. He would also gain notoriety fighting alongside Andrew Jackson against some of the Native American uprisings. Those uprisings were led by the Upper Creek Indians, those who were predominantly northwest of the Chattahoochee River. They were not interested in ceding their lands to the American people, the white people of the U.S. government. Representing the Creek nations, McIntosh did cede lands to the U.S. government that was used to create several counties, including Fayette. His argument was that land was being taken by the white man anyways, and if they ceded these lands, at least the money from those lands would help support the Creek Indians. Chief McIntosh urged the agreement with his fellow Native Americans. This became Georgia's resolution of 1821, which provided the state with the property that was then divided into 5 different counties: Henry County, Houston, Dooley, Monroe, and Fayette, which officially became the 49th county in Georgia. A land lottery was then conducted to provide those settling in the area with property to begin their lives. For a mere $19, buyers were placed into a lottery for 202.5-acre parcels that were mapped out along these counties. With many veterans of the American Revolution making their homes in these newly founded counties, there was much support for naming the county after the important Frenchman to the American independence, the Marquis de Lafayette. Fayette County was born. 1 year later, in 1822, Georgia stipulated that county seats be named, and that those county seats should be located centrally in the county's landform. Fayetteville was named the county seat. But the map back then looked very different from our current political boundaries. Fayette was much larger than it is today, stretching from modern-day Phipps Plaza and encompassing Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, as well as lands much farther east. This is why Fayetteville, located in the county's northeast section, is no longer in the center of the county. 12 times the state took property from Fayette in the creation of other counties. DeKalb, Clayton, Spalding, and Campbell, later formed to create Fulton County, were just some of the counties that were created with Fayette land. By 1854, Fayette was still 2.5 times larger than it is today, with 6,744 free residents and 1,965 enslaved people. By 1870, Fayette County reaches its current size and shape. Fayette is one of the smallest counties in Georgia. Of the 159 counties, Fayette is 142nd in size. Georgia has more counties than any other state except Texas. These smaller municipalities were purposely created so that all residents were closer to their county seat. And the county unit system was used at that time to select many elected officials, so the smaller county sizes helped rural areas have greater standing in Georgia's politics. And that is how Fayette County was created and formed. Now, I'd like to take a minute to explain how I foresee the format of Fayette Footprints podcast. It is my hope to produce a monthly podcast with interesting stories about my hometown. While many episodes will be historical, I do hope to include podcasts about important residents, familiar companies, and significant events. I also look forward to bringing guests in so that they can share their knowledge of Fayette history. And I welcome your ideas and feedback also. If you have suggestions for stories that need to be told, please reach out to me at fayettefootprints@gmail.com. This podcast will be available on most podcatchers, and you can always find episodes at www.fayettefootprints.buzzsprout.com. Finally, I'd like to thank the Fayette Historical Society for their cooperation in this endeavor. There's a wealth of Fayette history available to anyone in the Research Center, the former Margaret Mitchell Library, just off the square in Fayetteville. Look for their location, hours, and more at www.fayettehistoricalsociety.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll join me again on our next Fayette Footprints.